Schneider, the orange pumpkin box rolling down the road. You've all seen it before, that ugly orange that immediately grabs your attention as you're driving on the highway. But is it a good company to go to work for? In this video, we call Schneider's recruiting department, we do some online research, and we also talk to a couple of drivers pertaining to Schneider. And at the end, I'll let you know whether or not I would go to work for Schneider or not. And what the heck, I'll just tell you my opinion now. So the question is okay or no way? And the answer is okay. But it's not like a, yay, okay, I can't wait to go work for Schneider. It's a, okay, I guess I'll go work for Schneider. And here's why. So we're over here on their website, and we're gonna go ahead and click on careers here. Okay, so they have options for owner operators as well, it looks like. So there's nothing in careers for finding jobs. Let's see available jobs. So here's a couple over here. Let's go ahead and regional van, truckload driver, home weekly. Okay, so it looks like the pay is between $890 and $1,080 a week. Home weekly. All CDL holders are open to apply for this one. Okay, company paid CDL training. They have a CDL apprenticeship. What does it say? Okay, get paid $10 an hour to attend a 5 to 6 week CDL training course. Awesome. 95% no-touch freight, mostly drop and hook freight. Drop and hook is a fantastic thing, mainly because you're not taking time at docks getting loaded and unloaded. $5,000 sign-on bonus with 12 monthly payments for experienced drivers, and a $2,500 sign-on bonus and 12 monthly payments for inexperienced drivers. Anytime you see a sign-on bonus, you got to understand that it's not coming to you as soon as you sign on. Qualifications are a commercial driver's license, a learner's permit, and they do offer CDL training, which is good. A tuition reimbursement of up to $200 a month. Looks like they got credit for military experience and military apprenticeship programs, which is awesome. I love when companies are looking out for our troops that have experience driving big trucks in the military. Leading equipment and technology spec designed for driver comfort. Pretty much any company that is a major carrier like Schneider is going to advertise about their equipment. That's pretty common to see. Okay, let's take a look at this video and see what's going on with this. Oh, video is unavailable. Okay, now we learned when we did CR England, a breakdown on them. If you haven't checked that out, go back in my channel to the okay or no way playlist. I've done a couple of other companies same way. We learned there that at the bottom, it did end up saying something about these are not specific numbers, that you might be making something different. Okay, I'm not seeing any red flag like big things that are standing out as far as Schneider is concerned about, hey, these numbers aren't real. Let's go ahead and take a look at some reviews. We're looking at the one in Atlanta, Georgia, the Schneider. It got 3.6 stars. Okay, so 1 star for somebody that's working there. Have laundry room, parking lot overcrowded. Okay. Got a 5-star review here. Welcome to the Atlanta OC. Showers, washers, dryers, drinks, snacks. Got a 2-star here. Maintenance department just stands around chatting like a bunch of schoolgirls. No wonder why we can't get our trucks worked on. Literally no one is working. Then we got a 5-star bragging about Sheila. We got a 4-star here 4 months ago. Good company to start your trucking career with. They will keep you pretty busy to get all of the experience you want. They had me driving for hours instead of letting me practice alley docking. And when I almost got it in, they literally decided to stop me midway and try to direct me when I'm literally already getting inside the slot. They literally wanted me to fail purposely. So, okay. So I'm guessing this was in the training process where this person was testing out and trying to complete their course and be able to get their license. And they were working on the alley dock and they were just missing the hole and not able to get it in. They're claiming that they didn't have enough time to practice it. That's why they failed. All right, so based off of their online reviews, it's kind of a mixed bag, and it tends to always be like this, but it's just how it goes. Some people are happy with it. Some people are not very happy with it at all. And as far as their online website goes, I'm actually quite impressed with how their online setup is. It's providing a lot of the information that you need up front in order to make a decision on whether or not to apply with them right out the gate. I like that it's very detailed in what each position is offering. So overall, I think their online website is great. Let's go ahead and take a look at a Reddit post here. Okay, so this one says thoughts on Schneider, and it gives what we were looking at on the online website with different positions. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these comments here. Okay, this one says they are a great place to get trained. They are a horrible place to try to earn a living. Okay, so this one says pay is highly variable. I make anywhere between $600 and $1,200 a week, usually around $800 on a job post that was supposed to be $1,200 to $1,600 a week. I do OTR with tank and hazmat endorsement. Training was great, pay could be better, and it seems like a great place to learn and get experience, but I'm already looking at a few other companies that pay more and give more home time. Yeah, especially if you got a hazmat and tanker endorsement in order to drive those tanks around, you can do quite a bit with that as far as like a local job. Most of these LTL carriers want the big three. Doubles and triples, hazmat, and tanker in order to drive for them. So this person looks like they're pretty well set in order to just jump into that position. Also, they could be hauling tanks local too, and that would do a lot better. They fired me for being assaulted. I sued them and won. Net positive experience for me. All right, so based on the online stuff, it's not looking awesome. The pay doesn't seem to be very good. And while I appreciate their presentation on their website, it still doesn't make up for some of the negatives that are going on here. Not a whole lot of pay, not a whole lot of mileage, but it does seem like people are pretty happy with the training that they're getting over there. Maybe it could be a good option to go and get a CDL through Schneider and just put up with some of that other stuff while you finish your training and move on to a better company. But let's go ahead and call the recruiting department and see what they have to say. Maybe they can shine a little bit more light on what's going on here.
Thank you for calling Schneider's Driver Recruiting Department. Hi, thank you for calling Schneider Driver Recruiting. This is Wes. How can I help you?
Hi, I was calling to see if I can get some more information about your company.
All right. Ask any questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Awesome. Sounds great. Do you guys offer CDL training?
Yes, we do. It just depends on the area you're out of. I can get your zip code, so I can give you some better information. All right, looks like out of your area, we do offer paid CDL training. So the way it works is as long as you have your permit, and then have you ever attended a truck driving school before?
No.
Okay. So as long as you have your permit for your Class A, if you apply for a position with us that has our paid CDL training program attached, if you go to Schneider Jobs and look up jobs in your area, there'll be a filter on the side that'll have company paid CDL training. If you click that, it'll show you all the jobs we have in our area. Once you get hired on, we would send you out to our locations where we have our paid CDL training. We would send you out to a specific location where we have it. We would pay for your flights out and for your lodging while you're there. And it would be a 5-week process. Where it would be 2 weeks of classwork time. Then we'd have 2 weeks where you would go out with a trainer driving a Class A tractor trailer. And then the last week would be for you to get your license. And then after you finished up that process, we would move you forward into the orientation for the position you were hired on for. And then we would put you out over the road in that position. Does that all make sense?
As long as there's the permit to get the CDL, it's paid for. What is it paid for the time, or is it just covered, with a contract?
So while you are doing the paid CDL training, it would be paid for your time. So you would be paid an hourly rate during that time that you're going through that trucking school.
Okay.
So it's a nice way to get your CDL because you don't have to pay for the trucking school and you get paid to do the trucking school.
Okay, and what is that hourly rate?
I believe it's $10 per hour. While you're there.
Okay, so through the whole entire time of training, that's the 5 weeks as well, it's $10 an hour?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And then you said after that, I would become an over-the-road truck driver. What is the over-the-road truck drivers paying?
It would depend on the position. For the two I'm looking at right here that have that paid CDL training attached to it, one would be between $890 and $1,080 per week, and the other would be between $1,020 and $1,240 per week. So it just depends on what position you go for.
Is that paid based on the load, percentage, or cents per mile?
It would be cents per mile.
Okay, let's go with the higher one at that 1,020 to 1,240. What is the cents per mile on that?
I can't tell you that without an application in for it, just based off the way our system works.
I mean, do you guys have like a range of the cents per mile that you guys are normally at?
It varies so much that I couldn't give you a range for it, just because typically the mileage for each position varies, and the pay also varies, so I couldn't give you
Well, I mean, I think that's why it's pretty important to have. I think that's why it's pretty important to have that cents per miles, though, because you know that 1,020 a week to 1,240 a week all depends on how much you're making per mile and how many miles you're making per week. Right. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
That range of pay typically varies more based off of experience level than it does off of the mileage. The mileage for each position itself tends to stay pretty consistent. It's just the mileage across positions does not stay consistent.
Okay, so what's the average miles per week then?
Okay, it looks like for this position that would be about 2,500 miles per week on average.
That's pretty good. You said the pay range is more based off of experience. So basically, at that low end at 1,020, that's for like me, a no experience, and then the higher experience would be like, what's the time frame on that higher experience to get that higher pay?
I'll tell you, after 3 months, we give you your first raise, and then that continues pretty consistently up until a year, at which point it would turn into yearly raises.
Okay, so raises every 3 months.
Yep. Up until that first year, and after that point, it would become yearly.
And what are your guys' yearly raises? Is it performance-based or just time with the company or experience-based?
They typically tend to be experience-based. For these positions, I believe they would be experience-based.
Okay. And I'm guessing since you can't tell me the cents per mile, then that's where it falls, is in the cents per mile raise?
Yep, okay. That's correct.
Is there any other types of pay as far as like layover, detention?
Yes, when you're in those layovers, when you're waiting for unloads, or when you're doing work that isn't driving, we do offer a per hour rate. Once again, I couldn't tell you what that is without an application, just because I can't pull it up in our system without one. But we do offer a per hour rate for those times.
You guys offer insurance and all that stuff as well?
Yep.
Okay, and then for this position of the 1,020 to 1,240 per week, what's the home time for that position?
You would be out for 2 weeks at a time for this position. The other one I told you about would be out for a week at a time.
And that's the reasoning for the lower pay then right there, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, that's correct.
So we're going through the paid training and whatnot. It's $10 an hour throughout the whole 5 weeks of training for that. Is there a contract that goes with that, since you guys aren't like there's no CDL school to pay for? Do I have to work for you guys for a certain amount of time before like I'm relinquished of those fees or anything like that?
Yeah, so we don't do contracts per se. So if you sign on with us for this, we don't lock you into if you have to work with us. You couldn't work anywhere else if you leave, unless you leave after a certain period of time. However, we do ask that you stay on for at least 9 months after completing that CDL training program, or we ask that you would help pay back a penalty of $2,450. After 9 months, if you were to leave Schneider, you would be good and you wouldn't have to worry about paying anything back.
Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, more than anything, what if somebody were to come in with like a year or two of experience? Would the pay be still at that $1,240 around that time with that much experience, or would it go up past that for that specific route?
For this specific route, 1240 tends to be the max for how much for someone on this position. So it wouldn't go up. Of course, a year from now that could change and the position could be higher paying. I would assume it would be within a year. But right now, if someone with a year of experience came in, they wouldn't be exceeding that 1240 mark if I had to guess.
Do you want to check in your system to see if there's an application in there, actually? There might be one from some time ago.
I'm not seeing any currently, unless, okay, I am seeing one here. It looks like this application was back in 2016. So we only keep applications on file for a year before we need a new one. So you just have to submit a new application with us for those positions, and we can help you move forward.
All right. I appreciate your time, and I will get back with you. Oh, one other question. Do you guys have any other drivers that I could potentially talk to see what their experience has been? I know I've talked to other drivers from other companies that are not happy with their experience or things aren't lining up. I was just curious if you guys have somebody that I could potentially talk to.
I don't have anybody that I could put you through to currently. When you speak with once you get an application in, you would talk with them in my role. Then if everything was good, they would pass it to a recruiter. At that stage, you could ask them if they have anybody, but just from my end, I don't have anybody currently.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. All right, so some red flags are going up, but I think if you guys were to fill out an application for them, I think they would be able to give you your cents per mile, but based off of what I'm giving them, because I don't want them to have all of my information, I can't get that cents per mile out of them. However, we should still be able to figure out a cents per mile based off of the pay per week average and then divide that by the miles per week, and we should be able to get a cents per mile. So even if you can't get that cents per mile out of them, if they give you a couple of numbers, you can cross that and do the math on that to figure out what each is. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So he said this range of $1,020 per week to $1,240 a week is based off of experience. So with that, you can expect that it be at the lower end if you're just getting started. And if you have like a year experience, you're probably at the top end of that. So we'll go ahead, as my goal is to help out newer drivers, we'll go ahead at that bottom end there and take a look at that. So we got $1,020 a week, and he said it's divided by an average of 2,500 miles a week, which 2,500 miles a week is really good. That's a great over the road. However, that pans out to where you're making 40 cents a mile at the low end. If you're getting that 2,500 miles per week, like he said, then again, I mean, it all could be different. So he refused to give me a cents per mile, which automatically trips red flags in my head, but here we are. Now, as far as your training goes, you're getting paid $10 an hour. I forgot to ask him if that's $10 an hour while on duty or $10 an hour across the board. My guess is it's on duty, meaning if you were out with a trainer, only the time that you're driving, you're getting paid that $10 an hour. If you're in the classroom, normally they do like an 8-hour shift, like any other job, you're getting paid $10 an hour, which is nice. Don't get me wrong, to have some pay coming in while you're learning. But the downside to doing it with any other company is there's a chance that you won't be able to complete your time with them and you'll have to owe them money at the end. And that's why I asked him if there's any sort of contract, to which he told me that they do expect you to complete at least 9 months. If not, your balance will be paid down as you go along. And if you do not complete that 9 months, it could be up to $2,450. Now, CDL schools are significantly more expensive than that. You are looking between $7,000 and $10,000 depending on where you go to. So if all you have to do starting out is pay $2,450 if you do not complete that 9 months, financially it's a great opportunity. And that $10 an hour isn't awesome, but you're learning a new career and getting paid to do it. So I don't see much of a downside with that. And on the route that he was talking about, it was saying home every 2 weeks. Now, in my experience, companies that do home time, they typically give you 1 day home per 1 week out. Also, with this training program that they have, they do require you to have a permit up front, meaning that you need to get the handbook and study yourself in order to go over to the DMV and take the written test, which will get you a permit. And you have to come in the door with that, and that was basically their only requirement for coming in the door. Now, he did say that there would be raises every 3 months all the way up until a year, and after a year, it's going to go up to yearly raises after that. However, the route that he was talking about said that it did top out at $1,240 per week. So let's see what the cents per mile on that topped out amount would be. $1,240 a week divided by 2,500 miles is looking at 49 cents per mile. And that realistically, that's a decent number. but I would expect 49 cents per mile kind of be towards like a 6-month experience, not year or over. You should be making a little bit more than that on a year. Between 50 and 55 cents per mile after a year experience is what I would expect. Now, I will say I recommend for anybody starting with a company to stay on at least for 6 months, especially as a new driver. The goals that you're looking for is 6 months to a year. Those are the timelines that you want to be able to accomplish so other doors are open for you in the future. One other positive to this training program is that they offer you transportation and they pay for the whole transportation to get to a location where they can do your testing. All right, so this is the part of the video where I normally try to get a hold of a driver and get somebody to talk to that's actually got some real world experience with Schneider. Unfortunately, I've been trying for the last 3 days to get somebody to get on the phone with me and I wasn't able to come up with anybody, so for that I apologize. However, I was able to talk to one person via chat, and there's also another person that sent me their live offer from Schneider showing me exactly what they were offering this driver. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Alright, so keep in mind that this person had almost a year experience before they were done with trucking. They stopped trucking for a good bit of time, and they recently just went back through CDL school, got their CDL, and they're looking for a new job. We got to take this with a little grain of salt. They already have a little bit of experience under their belt. It's just kind of expired experience. And if you don't know, if you go an extended period of time without using your CDL, a lot of companies will view it as non-recent experience, and a lot of them will actually require you to take additional courses before starting with them. So this job offer was sent on May 6, 2025. They're saying that the average miles per week are 2,500 miles per week, home every 3 weeks. That means 28 days on, 5 days home. The account that they would be working on is pods. And right here in their offer letter, they put in a disclaimer to cover their butts if they decide to change the pay up on a driver after they come on board. And they did this by saying the work configuration, pay, and benefits package provided may change depending on the market conditions and business needs of Schneider, as it will determine in its sole discretion. That's kind of an out for Schneider, saying, oh, market conditions change, we're going to have to lower your pay. Sorry, we couldn't sign you on for what we said originally. So this is kind of an out for them. Not a big fan of that, but I understand the legal ramifications if they don't put that in there. And it's showing 49 cents per mile, which is what you would make per mile. And Schneider does this weird thing that I found out too, that they pay for on-duty time at a rate of $10 an hour. Now, as we've seen when we were talking to the recruiter, that they pay $10 an hour through training. I didn't realize at the time that this is also an on-duty time. So if you are sitting at a dock, it's a way for them to avoid paying you detention pay and or layover pay. However, in order to get that, you have to be on duty on your logs. And when you're on duty on your logs, that ends up cutting into the amount of time that you can drive and make the more money. So that $10 an hour, I'd be curious to see how that played out in comparison to straight mileage pay and detention pay, as detention is typically between $20 and $25 an hour after the first 2 hours. So I'd be curious to see if that $10 an hour ends up paying more or less than the standard way of doing things. And also in this, it looks like they talk about a sign-on bonus of $3,000. But word to the wise, a sign-on bonus doesn't mean that you're going to get that money as soon as you walk in the door. Every company that I've ever talked to or dealt with always has a time frame in which they deliver those funds to you. In some cases, it's every 6 months you get half of that sign-on bonus. Or in other cases like Schneider here, they are making 12 different payments. The first payment occurs within the first 30 days of hire, and after that it's a monthly payout until all 12 payments are complete. Now, they don't specify if you're going to get $100 on one and $500 on another. You got to be careful when companies are advertising a sign-on bonus, and make sure you ask questions about that sign-on bonus, because if you only decide to stay with them for 6 months, you're not going to see that entire sign-on bonus. Another thing to note as it regards to this offer is it's a pods account, meaning that they are small storage containers that go on a flatbed. And as a general rule, flatbed typically pays more because there's a higher risk involved and a little bit more work involved as well. Now, I was able to talk to another individual via Reddit, and he had recently quit 2 weeks ago. Starting out with little experience as a yard jockey, he came into Schneider making 39 cents per mile. During training, he said that he had a class of 9 that was chopped down to 6 within the first 2 weeks of training. He also said that Schneider brings in 150 new drivers countrywide every single week. And finally, I asked him on average how many miles per week was he getting, and he told me that he was getting anywhere between 1,500 and 1,800 miles a week. So let's take a look at the numbers from that offer that one of my subscribers had got at a rate of 49 cents per mile, and couple that with the information that I got from the gentleman on Reddit, stating that he was averaging between 15 and 1,800 miles per week, and see what it comes out to as a weekly average. All right, so let's go on the high end here and do 49 cents per mile times 1,800 miles, and that was the top of his average. And you're looking at about $882 a week. Now this is pre-tax. So the reason that I wasn't calculating that $10 an hour is because that's not a dependable number. Meaning that one week you can have way more hours on duty, and then the next week you could have way less. But just for figuring's sake, let's try to estimate here at what that $10 an hour might equate to in a week's worth of work. Now, pre-trip and post-trip inspections are supposed to take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and assume that you're getting at least an hour a day just doing your pre-trip and post-trip inspection. And also, let's go ahead and assume you get 3 pickups and 3 deliveries during a week. Just remember that this is an estimate. And a typical wait time at a pickup and a delivery should be no more than 2 hours. However, if you're going to save your time for driving, you should only be logging about 30 minutes at each end. So we're going to run it with both, with doing the 30 minutes as well as doing it for an approximate 2 hours on each end. So we said 3 pickups and 3 deliveries in a week, that's 6 stops. So we'll take 6 and we'll multiply it by 30 minutes each. That brings us 180, then we got to divide that by 60, and it brings us to 3 hours. And assuming you work 6 days a week, that's going to add another 6 hours. So you're looking at 9 hours worth of additional time. Multiply that by $10 an hour, and it's going to add a whopping $90 to your paycheck each week. Add that to the $882 just for the mileage pay, and you'll walk away with $972 for the week pre-tax. Now let's go ahead and assume that you log the entire 2 hours. So you're looking at 120 minutes, and you multiply that by 6 stops for the week, and you're at 720 minutes. Now we divide that by 60 minutes in an hour, and you got an additional 12 hours. Multiply that by $10 an hour, and you got an extra $120. Add it to 882, which would bring your grand total for the week up to $1,002 for the week pre-tax. And I'm just going to be honest, this is not great pay. 49 cents per mile, especially somebody who has some experience, and that's all the information that we have to go off of. It's not fantastic pay. So in summary, I'm not a huge fan of the way they hide some of the information as it pertains to your cents per mile, because using the metrics of average weekly pay and average mileage is not the metric in which you're paid by. You're paid by cents per mile. And while I think knowing what the average miles per week is important, you also need to know that cents per mile. But Schneider was a bit dishonest about how many miles they were getting on average based off of somebody who just quit the job 2 weeks ago. Schneider was saying it was 2,500 miles a week on average, and the driver that quit 2 weeks ago said that it was 1,800 miles a week on average. It does seem like they have some decent contracts, being that they work with pods, and they do a decent bit of drop and hook as well. However, it seems like their turnover rate is really high as well. Now don't get me wrong, I don't expect the company to keep a hold of bad drivers. If they're not making the cut, get rid of them. But as the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. And with the pay being only about $1,000 a week, all you're going to get coming through the door is new drivers. Because anybody with a bit of experience knows that they can find a better deal somewhere else. So would I go to work for Schneider? And as I stated in the intro, the answer to this question is, okay, yeah, I'll go work for Schneider, but it's not an enthusiastic, this is my first pick, this is where I want to go. I would work for Schneider if I didn't have a whole lot of other options. So if you're looking at Schneider as a company to go to work for, and all the companies that you've applied for have turned you down, this might be a good opportunity. But just keep in mind that once you start getting some experience, start looking for something else, because they don't do a great job at trying to keep their drivers on board. And if you've worked for Schneider, leave a comment down below and let me know what your experience was with them. And if there's any other company you want me to do a deep dive on, let me know down in the comments as well. And we have a growing group of new drivers that are coming on board, starting with various different companies over on the Discord server, which the link for that will be down below. So come chat with me and other drivers over there, and we'll all do our best to help each other out and keep growing this community. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, bye.